Hello everyone. So I will be going through a quick tutorial on getting started with QGIS. I'll be following this kind of lab instructions that you'll be given, so you can follow along with me and just not really be doing any particular assignment, but going over the basics of downloading QGIS for Mac, downloading data, setting up scales and north arrows, changing the colors and styles of your lines and points and polygons, and yeah, just the basics of QGIS. So we're going to get started with clicking this, or you can Google QGIS. And you see there's the Windows, there's the Mac, so we're going to be doing the Mac version here. So download that to the desktop. See, it might take a bit of time. And so in the meantime, while that's downloading, we can click on this link to get our data. So this is where you click to get more data. A lot of your assignments will require this. Remember, your username is like the stuff that's in front of your email, not your student number. And then log in and you'll see you'll have all this data. So I'm going to download land use. Let's see, highways and railroads. Let's see, is there anything else I want here? And let's grab municipal boundaries. Save. So I've just saved this all to my desktop. You want to be careful when you're saving things to put them in places that they're going to stay still, because every time you move a file like this, you risk unlinking it. So I'm going to actually put all these files into this data file here after I've unzipped them all. And so once we get our QGIS, we'll open these. So now you'll see that we have the download file, click that, the installation file, read through it all, agree, skip the verifications because I know I trust it, and bring it into applications. Yeah, so now that we have QGIS downloaded, we can actually get rid of all these zip files in the installation file. And we'll open this for the first time, which, oops, not this file, but the file in applications. And it might give you a warning like this, but all you have to do is click open. And we'll see it starting, QGIS 3.16. So it's kind of loaded my past projects, as you can see, because I had to uninstall it in order to do this demo. So it's kind of recognizing itself again. But this is the basic thing. You can click on a new project. Usually close that window. And here we are in QGIS. So we've got kind of very similar tabs to ArcMap. We can go here to properties. And this is the sort of place where we'll change our coordinates. So you'll be wanting to, usually for Toronto, You're looking for UTM zone 17M. And you see these little maps show up on the bottom. So there we go. And that's where Toronto is on the map. That's just something that you'll see time and time again for people doing maps in Toronto. And it'll kind of prevent distortion to have this projection. So okay, and now it's set up. You can't obviously see much of a difference, but this is where your layers will appear. And usually I actually just click the layer files and open them with QGIS. But there's a couple options. So if I go to the files that I just want to open, and click on this, it'll ask if I want to switch it. And I do. I want to make all of them match. And here we are. I don't remember exactly what that file was, but let's just add all of them. And there we go. We got tons of files. And you can kind of drag them to get different orders. The closer to the top they are, the higher they are on the layer. And QGIS, if you want to kind of orient yourself with the background map, you go to this quick map services. If you don't have them, you can also find it here. It's not in your toolbar. And I often put just some roads in the background so I can get a sense of where I am. So this is Toronto, and these are kind of other neighboring municipalities. I might want to put that one right at the bottom. And then we've got our zoning on top here. Yeah, let's try to show how to change colors. So for example, say I want to make the background gray, I can just double click here, or another option is I can right click and then go to properties, and it'll bring me to this menu, which is kind of intuitive. I might make it the color gray. What you can do is apply, so that way you can see what's happening. So I've made it this kind of like dot print, but maybe I just want a simple fill, and I want the simple fill to be this kind of like light gray color. And I'll apply it, and I'm like, okay, that looks good. You can see it's got a blue outline. So by clicking here on this kind of like second menu, you can see more details. So I can see the stroke is outlined in blue. Maybe I want to make it outlined in white, and I can make the stroke a bit thicker. So it's kind of, if I really want to show the distinction between the two, maybe make it a little less. And apply. And then you always want to press OK, or the changes you make won't apply. So we've got this now. For things that are a little more complex, so we have, this is our zoning map, but right now it's all one color. So to change that, one thing you can do, just understand what data it is open attribute table. You'll see that you've got commercial, open area, residential. And if we go to properties, you want to categorize it. Because you want each color to mean a different land use. And so you want to categorize it by category. And just to see what it looks like, you can try random colors. And then you press classify. And so you can see it's classified them all with random colors. These are the different land uses that it is kind of given us, and we can change each of these symbols. So for example, if I want to make parks and recreational different color, I double click that, bring it to maybe a green, and then say I want to make residential kind of a yellowish, which is usually the standard color. You go in, press OK, and you've kind of changed that. Yeah, because right now they're just completely random. Let's make government gray. You would usually follow the kind of standards for land use that they give you. And you can see it has kind of recategorized itself. In terms of making labels, so this is our municipalities map. So there's Toronto and their municipal boundaries. So to create layers, to create labels, you would want to go to the labels. You might go single labels, and maybe it's name. So what happens when you apply that? All right, so you can see we've got all the different names. It's based on kind of the text file, and in this way you can change the text. So say I want the text color to be like a lightish gray, and apply, see what that looks like. You make the text size bigger, apply, oops, and it's smaller. Text size bigger, apply. You can even put a shadow on it, apply, so that maybe it stands out a bit more, but sometimes it can just make it look more busy. And okay, and so you've got kind of these controllable labels. You can also indicate if you want them kind of in the center or around. So that's a way to use the actual data from the table to make some labels. You can actually see down here, this is where you can adjust the scale. So put it at the scale and then focus it at wherever you want it to be. Maybe a closer scale, maybe a further scale. You can also just enter it in. And so in order to actually make a print layout for exporting into InDesign, you're going to want to go to New Print Layout. So this is a bit different. All your layouts are going to show up here. So kind of orient to the scale that you need for whatever part of the assignment, and put it in the center of the window how you'd like it. And then you go to New Print Layout, and I could go close up Toronto, or Toronto at whatever scale. And so you'll end up with this window that's sort of blank. And basically you add everything by the bars here on the side. So the first thing you'll probably want to add is your map. So if you hover, add 3D map, we're not doing that now, but you've got add map, and then just kind of expand it to take up the space you want it to take in here. And so that's going to be just centered on exactly what you had centered in the last window. And so that's not really going to change now. And then the next thing you can do is add a legend. So this is the legend toolbar. I'm just going to put it in the corner here. And you can see it's just kind of added everything. So in order to adjust these, you can take off auto update, and by clicking the plus or minus, you can remove elements. So say I don't really want to show these because they're not actually showing. Maybe only show items inside current Atlas feature would make sense. And what I really want to focus on is this. I might change the label and say land uses, and you see that's kind of changing the title there. You'll go back and you have all of these. This one doesn't have a name. I don't remember what property this is, but I'll remove it for now. And we've also got this municipalities base map that doesn't really show up. So I might just remove that. Yeah, and so that's kind of how you can edit. You can also edit it by renaming the original layers, everything that you want it to be, which might save some time and make it easier to adjust. But here you go, it's given you a pretty simple legend that you can kind of move anywhere. I usually like to keep it separate if you can, so that even when you export it to InDesign, like you can kind of cut off this separate bit and move it where you might need to move it, just in case it doesn't work for your layout. But for this really simple map, this works. And then of course we've got our north arrow, and you can see that. Click north arrow, and we'll just make a point here. And so this is great. This is actually kind of a new feature. Before you had to insert it as an image and then like find it in the image. So there's a couple different north arrow styles here, and then I like the simplest one that I can find. And I like to fill it with black so that it's just like one solid thing that doesn't take a lot of attention. But you can change it to whatever you want. And there's also all these other symbols that you could add in. Might make it a little bit smaller here, for example. And then what's the last necessary thing you need? It's a scale bar. And same idea, it kind of does it automatically. You can change it to meters or kilometers. You can change the style. Usually I like the tick marks down because I feel like it takes up the least visual space, and it's really simple. It does it automatically based on the one map you have here. And yeah, you can just put that there and you've got this full map. So if you want to kind of close this layout view, say there's something about this map that you kind of don't want to see, like I have this outline here of the bodies of water. That's not the best, but I still want to keep this layout. Go back to the actual file. See, I can change this all I want, but it won't actually change how the layout is framed. But what I can do is make it so we're not viewing that water body layer, and then you can go back to the layout that you've already made. So go back to close-up Toronto, and you can see it just edited it out. So whatever you want in the layer at the moment when you export it, it has to be on in your original kind of layers panel. And you can kind of edit it while keeping the same framing, which is really useful. So to export, you export as PDF. Can pretty much keep this. I sometimes put export vectors if I want to make sure those individual shapes are there because I want to edit them in Illustrator, but for your purposes, that's probably not necessary. So you can save and you can see successfully exported. You will have a lot of template files that you can just open, but imagine this is one of the kind of squares in your template, and here's where you put title of map. And usually I just actually drag things right into InDesign, and we'll see how this QGIS map has turned out. Yeah, and so you can see it's kind of cut some stuff off. If you right click, fit content to frame, we'll kind of shrink it down so that the whole picture is fitting within the frame. And so now we've got our legend, we've got our thing. We can go back to the layout and, for example, make the legend bigger or move things around now that we see what it looks like and, you know, the final result. And so there we go, you've got your map. In order to change things in like big detail, you can go to different fonts. You can change the size of the fonts. Oops, there we go. So it's a subgroup heading. And by scrolling, I can actually make that go up and down. So if I did want to make it bigger because I felt it wasn't showing very well at the size, there we go, it's bigger. You can move everything to the side. And one thing I'd just like to add in is how to manage the page itself. So if I right click and then press page properties, you can kind of do these standard, say, letter size page. And it's really, you can also resize it once you're in InDesign, of course, and just, you know, size it exactly to it, to the box that you'll put it in. You can also here change the background, say if you want it to just be completely transparent. But of course the map background here is white, so that'll still show up. But that might be kind of important for you if you ever want to kind of overlay maps a bit for something very creative, or make it match the background of, you know, the InDesign file, for example. And so now we have this kind of rearranged situation. And as you can see, if I kind of shrink it to fit the page size, the scale bar is changing with it. So that's why it's good to kind of do this sort of stuff within a mapping software, so that if you need to make edits, you know, outside, that also affects the scale bar and can be kind of challenging, but within it, it adjusts. I'll move my legend a little bit, and I press shift to select multiple of these kind of elements and move them. And so now I've created it at kind of this letter page size. If I wanted to print this map out on this sort of exact paper size, you could do it now. So I hope this has been helpful. The principles for every sort of different file type are the same. You can import them by dragging them on Mac, but you can also add a layer here. To change any of the properties, you can just double click on the kind of coloring or symbology, or right click in properties. You deal with your layers here and order them, and can turn them on and off. And then under project and layouts, you can create your print layouts and add all your elements. Export to PDF and import into your InDesign file. So hopefully this gives you the basics if you've never used QGIS before. I use it for most of my mapping when I'm doing it on my own, since I have a Mac. I find it pretty quick and easy, and it has a lot of the tools that ArcMap has. So I think it's a great alternative for making simple maps like these on your own when using a Mac.